You need credit to get credit, but you can't get credit without credit. And 49 million Americans are stuck in this exact trap right now. Today, we're going to break that cycle, whether you're starting from absolute zero or trying to push your score higher.
I mean, it's staggering to just think about that number. 49 million adults operating completely outside the modern financial system.
Yeah, it's massive.
Right. And the real-world consequences of, being invisible to the credit bureaus, it goes way beyond just getting a shiny rewards card. We're talking about basic necessities here.
Absolutely.
Without a score between, say, 620 and 680, renting a decent apartment becomes incredibly difficult. Car insurance premiums skyrocket because actuaries basically view a lack of credit as a major risk factor.
Right.
And in plenty of states, employers are even pulling credit files before making a final hiring decision. So, I mean, it touches almost every aspect of your financial life.
It feels incredibly frustrating. It's identical to applying for your very first entry-level job right out of school, and the hiring manager looks at you and says, "Sorry, we require 3 years of experience."
Yeah, the classic catch-22.
Exactly. How are you supposed to get the experience if no one will give you the job to get the experience? But there is a way around this. Our mission for this deep dive today is to explicitly map out how to bypass this gatekeeping. You can manufacture that financial experience if you just understand the underlying mechanics.
It really comes down to seeing the system not as some, moral judgment of your character, but as a rigid mathematical algorithm. FICO has specific rules. And once you know those rules, you stop being a victim of the system and you start actually directing it.
So let's establish the ground rules for the algorithm. If someone is starting from absolute zero, like a total blank slate, FICO requires a minimum of 6 months of credit history to even generate a score.
Right. There's no magic button.
No, exactly. You can't just open a card on Tuesday and expect to have a 700 score by Friday. It takes 6 to 12 months to establish a baseline. And realistically, it takes a year or two to build what lenders consider a good score, meaning 670 or above. Anyone promising a prime credit score in 30 days from scratch is, well, they're selling snake oil.
Which means we need to look at the legitimate tools available to build that foundation. There are several paths you can take, and the most effective way to sort of understand them is to look at the speed of results.
Okay, let's break those down.
So if someone needs a credit profile quickly, the absolute fastest route is a strategy known as piggybacking, or becoming an authorized user. You can actually see results in a matter of days or maybe weeks.
I want to break down the mechanics of this because it sounds almost like cheating, honestly.
It kind of does.
You find a family member or a deeply trusted friend who has a credit card with a long, flawless history. They add your name to that specific account as an authorized user. You don't even need them to hand you the physical card.
Right, you never have to actually touch it.
Exactly. The bank simply takes that person's entire history of good behavior on that specific account and just copies it onto your blank credit report. You literally inherit their track record.
You inherit the history, the age of the account, the on-time payments. It can give you a starting score in the low 600s almost instantly, purely based on their good habits.
Wait, but if the bank is copying their history onto my report, it must be copying everything, right? Seems like a massive vulnerability. Let's say my trusted friend has a sudden medical emergency, maxes out that credit card to pay the bill, and misses 2 monthly payments. Am I taking collateral damage for their emergency?
Oh, you take a direct hit. That is the major caveat of the authorized user strategy. If they miss a payment, that late payment is stamped right onto your report.
Wow.
Yeah. If their utilization spikes because they maxed out the card, your score tanks right alongside theirs. So it requires absolute mutual trust, and you have to be highly selective. You only want to be added to an older account that has a perfect payment history and consistently low balances.
Okay, so if I don't want my financial fate tied to, like, my uncle's spending habits, I need a self-reliant route. That brings us to the secured credit card. This takes a little longer, usually 1 to 2 months to see traction, but it puts you entirely in the driver's seat.
Right, because it's just you.
Right. Because lenders don't trust a blank slate, they require a refundable security deposit. You put down maybe $200 or $500, and that cash basically becomes your credit limit.
The deposit acts as their insurance policy.
Mm.
If you disappear and never pay your bill, the bank just keeps your $500. No harm done to them. But if you use the card to buy gas or groceries and pay the bill responsibly, the bank reports that positive activity to the 3 major credit bureaus.
That's Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion.
Exactly. And over time, usually after 6 to 12 months of good behavior, the bank will graduate the account. They basically upgrade you to a regular unsecured card and mail your $500 deposit back to you.
I want to pause right here because the way people use these secured cards and regular cards honestly brings up something that drives me completely crazy. There is this pervasive, stubborn rumor in personal finance that we really need to violently dismantle right now.
Oh, I know exactly what you're going to say.
Millions of people are absolutely convinced that to build your credit score, you have to carry a balance from month to month and let the bank charge you interest.
It is the single most damaging myth in personal finance, and it just refuses to die.
It's everywhere.
It is. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has issued statements on this,
Right.
and the credit bureaus themselves have confirmed it is entirely false. Let's be perfectly clear. You do not need to pay a single cent of interest to build credit.
The logic behind the myth makes a warped kind of sense to people, I guess.
Hmm.
They assume that if they make the bank money by paying 25% interest, the bank will somehow reward them with a higher score.
Right, like they're buying a good score.
But that fundamentally misunderstands what the credit bureaus are measuring. They are measuring your reliability, not your profitability to the lender.
Exactly.
If I buy a $40 tank of gas and I pay off that $40 in full before my due date, my credit builds just as fast as someone who rolls that $40 over for a year and pays interest on it. Paid it in full every single month. Zero interest, period.
Taking that zero-risk approach is crucial. Now, if someone doesn't have the $500 upfront for a secured card deposit, there is another really fascinating tool called a credit builder loan. This takes about 3 to 6 months to show real progress, and it operates essentially as a reverse loan.
A reverse loan, normally you get the loan money up front and then you spend years paying it back.
Right. But a credit builder loan flips the timeline. The lender approves you for, say, $500, but they don't hand you the cash. They lock that $500 in a secure savings account. You then make small, manageable monthly payments to the lender until you hit the $500 mark.
Oh, I see.
And every time you make one of those monthly payments, the lender reports it as a positive on-time installment payment to the credit bureaus. It essentially forces you to save money while simultaneously manufacturing a positive payment history.
That's pretty clever.
It is. Once you make the final payment, they unlock the savings account and hand you your $500. It is risk-free for the bank, which means the barrier to entry is virtually non-existent for the consumer.
There are also some modern tech-driven workarounds that didn't even exist a decade ago. Experian Boost is one of them. It leverages open banking technology.
Right, connecting directly to your bank.
Exactly. You securely link your primary checking account to Experian's platform, and their system scans your transaction history for everyday bills you are already paying. We're talking about your water bill, electricity, your cell phone plan, and even streaming services like Netflix or Hulu.
It's a clever mechanism because instead of only getting credit for formal loan payments, you are getting credit for simply existing and managing your normal life expenses. Our sources show this adds an average of 14 points to a FICO score instantly.
Instantly. That's huge.
It really is. The limitation to keep in mind, though, is that it only impacts your Experian report. Equifax and TransUnion don't use this data, but for 5 minutes of work, a 14-point bump on one of your major files is highly efficient.
And for the younger demographic, there are always student credit cards. Banks offer these to college students with low limits, usually $500 to $1,500, without requiring a security deposit, knowing that students are a blank slate.
The key takeaway from all of these tools is that you shouldn't rely on just one. The optimal strategy to go from invisible to highly scorable is to layer them.
Layer them. Okay, what does that look like?
You become an authorized user on a trusted family member's card to get an immediate anchor of history. At the same time, you open your own secured credit card to establish your own active revolving credit. Then, you sign up for Experian Boost to capture the utility and streaming payments you're already making.
You are basically attacking the algorithm from 3 different angles. And if someone executes that combination strategy, paying everything in full and on time, they are looking at a highly predictable timeline. They will consistently reach a 680 to 720 FICO score in about 12 months.
Which establishes a fantastic foundation.
Okay, so that covers starting from nothing. But what if you already have a score and it's just, well, stuck?
Right through the plateau.
Yeah, a huge portion of the people looking into this are invisible. They have a score, they've had credit for 5 years, they pay their bills, but they are plateaued, they are stuck at a 700 or a 710, and they just can't seem to break through that ceiling into the elite tiers. How do we manipulate the algorithm to jump from a stagnant score to an 800?
This requires a major shift in strategy. When you are building from scratch, you just need positive history. When you want to optimize a stuck score, you have to master utilization.
Yeah.
And the absolute most effective way to do that is a technique known as the AZEO method.
AZE.
Yes, it stands for all zero except one.
Let's unpack the logic here because it runs contrary to a lot of mainstream advice. The golden rule of personal finance you constantly hear is to keep your credit card utilization, which is the percentage of your available limit that you're currently using, under 30%.
Right, everyone says 30%.
But the data shows 30% is not a target, it is a danger zone. To push into the 800s, you need your utilization sitting between 1% and 9%.
Lower utilization basically proves to the algorithm that you are not desperate for borrowed money.
But if lower is better, why not aim for 0%? Why not pay every single credit card down to absolutely $0?
Because FICO's algorithm doesn't just want to see that you have access to credit. It wants proof that you are actively and responsibly managing debt right now. If every single revolving account reports a zero balance, the algorithm essentially sees dormancy.
Interesting.
Yeah, it can't fully assess your current risk level because you aren't demonstrating any active debt management.
I see. It's like showing up to the gym, putting on your expensive workout gear, standing on the floor, but never actually touching a dumbbell.
That's a perfect analogy.
The algorithm sees you have the capacity to lift, but it doesn't see you performing the reps. It needs proof that you can handle the weight today.
That is the exact psychology of the algorithm. So the AZEO method dictates that you pay every single credit card you own down to exactly a $0 balance, except for one single card.
Just one.
Just one. On that one card, you let a tiny balance report to the bureaus, just a few dollars, representing between 1% and 9% of that specific card's limit.
Yeah.
It tells FICO, I am actively using my credit, but I am so incredibly financially stable that I pay off 99% of it immediately.
That makes perfect sense mathematically. But executing this brings up a trap that catches almost everyone off guard. To pull off the AZEO method, you have to understand the critical distinction between your due date and your statement closing date.
Oh man. This is where millions of points are lost every month.
It really is.
The credit bureaus do not care about your payment due date.
Yeah.
Your credit card balance is reported to the bureaus on your statement closing date. That is the day the bank takes a snapshot of your account and generates your monthly bill. That closing snapshot is usually taken 3 to 5 days before your actual payment is due.
Walk through a concrete timeline so we can visualize this trap. Let's say I have a credit card with a $1,000 limit. On the 5th of the month, I go out and buy an $800 television. I have the cash sitting in my checking account, so I'm not worried.
Right, you're being responsible.
Exactly. I wait until my payment due date on the 25th of the month, and I pay off the full $800. No interest is charged. I followed all the rules.
Wait, seriously, if I pay my bill in full by the due date, the bank is happy, but I'm still getting penalized by the credit bureau.
Yes. You followed the bank's rules, but let's look at the snapshot. Your due date was the 25th. But your statement closing date was likely the 20th. So on the 20th of the month, the bank system took a photograph of your account. In that photograph, you had an $800 balance on a $1,000 limit. The bank reported an 80% utilization rate to the credit bureaus. Your score plummets because you look maxed out, even though you paid the entire thing off just 5 days later.
That is so frustrating. So to run the AZEO method properly, you have to log into your banking portals, find the specific statement closing date for every single card you own, and pay the balances down to 0 before that photograph is taken.
Exactly.
Except for that one designated card where you purposefully leave a $10 balance to cross the closing date, and then you pay that $10 off before the final due date.
You manipulate the photograph. If you control the snapshot, you control the score. And because utilization has no memory in the current FICO scoring models, a terrible utilization rate from last month is completely wiped clean the moment a new optimized snapshot is reported.
That's a huge relief.
It is. This single strategy can boost a stagnant score by 20 to 40 points in a single 30-day billing cycle.
AZEO optimizes the accounts you are actively using. But what if there's an anchor dragging your score down that you didn't even cause? Looking at the data, roughly 20% of consumers have verified errors on their credit reports.
Wait, 1 in 5 people?
1 in 5. People are walking around with a penalized score due to clerical mistakes. We are talking about accounts that belong to someone with a similar name, wrong balances, duplicate accounts, or late payments that were actually paid on time.
That's wild.
If you pull your reports and find a false delinquency, disputing it and having it removed doesn't just result in a slow creep upward. Your score can instantly jump 50 to 100 points the moment that derogatory mark is deleted.
Another powerful mathematical lever that people completely overlook is requesting a credit limit increase. If utilization is a ratio, your balance divided by your limit, there are two ways to improve that ratio. You can aggressively pay down the balance, which takes a lot of cash, or you can simply make the denominator bigger.
It is a brilliant math hack. If you have a credit card with a $5,000 limit and you have a $1,500 balance sitting on it, you are at a 30% utilization rate. You are hitting that danger ceiling.
Right.
Instead of stressing about scraping together $1,500 in cash to pay it off immediately, you can just contact the bank and request a limit increase to $10,000.
And if you have a decent history with them, they often approve it instantly through their automated system. The moment your limit becomes $10,000, that exact same $1,500 balance now only represents a 15% utilization rate.
It instantly halves it.
Your ratio gets cut in half, your FICO score goes up, and you didn't have to spend a single dollar to achieve it.
While we are looking at managing the math of these accounts, we have to tackle the cleanup myth.
Yeah.
People constantly get the urge to simplify their finances. They find an old credit card they haven't used in 5 years, and they think, I should just call the bank and close this to tidy up my life.
Closing an old credit card is an act of financial self-sabotage.
It really is.
15% of your entire FICO score is based on the average age of your accounts. If you close your oldest credit card, you are effectively wiping out a huge chunk of your established credit history. It also instantly reduces your total available credit, which shrinks your denominator and immediately spikes your overall utilization percentage. It is a double penalty.
The alternative is a tactic known as the zombie account strategy. You keep the old card open, but you put it on life support.
I love that name.
Right. You take it out of your desk drawer once every 3 to 6 months, you buy a $5 coffee with it, and you go home and pay it off immediately. It keeps the account just active enough that the bank's automated system doesn't close it for dormancy. It continues to age, it continues to anchor your credit history, and it costs you nothing.
And if that old card happens to carry a heavy annual fee that you don't want to pay anymore, you still don't have to close it. You call the bank and ask for a product change. You basically downgrade the card to their basic free tier. Lenders almost always allow this. It preserves the account's original opening date, retains your credit limit, and eliminates the fee.
When you look at the realistic timeline for these optimization strategies, it is remarkably fast compared to building a profile from scratch. If you have a stuck score and you implement the AZEO method by perfectly timing your statement closing dates, you successfully dispute an error on your report, and you grab a strategic credit limit increase, you can absolutely expect a 30 to 60 point jump in just 30 to 60 days.
It is entirely within your control. Let's synthesize all of this into an immediate action plan. If you do nothing else after this episode, do these 3 things. Check your credit report for free at annualcreditreport.com to look for those hidden errors. Sign up for Experian Boost to get credit for the utility bills you're already paying. And log into your banking apps to find out your exact statement closing dates so you can start using the AZEO method this month.
It really just comes down to knowing the rules of the game.
Exactly. Though before we wrap, I keep thinking about how archaic this entire system actually is. We're relying on a 3-digit number invented decades ago to determine who gets a house and who gets a job. With the rapid rise of open banking and artificial intelligence, lenders are starting to look at real-time cash flow data, how much money you actually hold in your bank account, not just how you juggle revolving debt. 10 years from now, we might look back at the traditional FICO score as a relic of the past, completely replaced by AI risk models. Something to think about.
That's it for today. If this episode helped you understand how credit actually works, share it with someone who needs to hear it. This is Alpha English Podcast. See you next time.